Have you ever wondered why some films look better than others? You might think it has everything to do with all of the expensive cameras, gear, crew members, film sets. All of these things play a huge part, but what if I told you that it had less to do with that and a lot more to do with something far more important? And the best part is, it's free. Hey, what's happening everyone? My name is Ryan, and today we're talking about composition and framing, what it is and why it's an essential element to visual storytelling. Let's get into it. Okay, so recently I sent out a poll asking what kind of videos you're most interested in watching, and I found that a lot of you guys voted for mostly the same thing, and that is the filmmaking process and storytelling. And I couldn't be more excited because these are topics that I've been wanting to talk about on this channel for a long time. In this video, we're gonna be kind of bridging the gap because composition is an essential part of the filmmaking process for shaping the story. Now, to be completely honest, this is a big topic, so we're not gonna be able to get into everything in this one video. However, I am thinking about creating a whole series around this, but I only wanna make content that is valuable to you. So if this is something that you would like to see, please feel free to hit us up in the comments below and let us know. But with all of that said, in today's video, we're just gonna be covering the basics, so let's dive in. So when I say that composition and framing are essential in visual storytelling, that was no exaggeration. These techniques are commonly used in all major films and any film of any size, but what is it exactly? Well, let's get into that. Composition refers to the arrangement of visual elements within the frame. These are things like balance, symmetry, and points of interest. While framing is all about essentially everything that the viewer sees within the frame. But why do we need to understand composition and why is it important for our films? In a nutshell, both composition and framing are essential when communicating a story visually. There are definitely many reasons why it's important, like using it for aesthetic or narrative enhancement and atmosphere, just to name a few. But there are two things that I want to focus on for this video. Number one is visual communication. The way that you have your scene framed and composed can directly influence what your viewers see and how they will interpret the story. It can also convey emotions and establish relationships between your characters while setting the overall tone and mood for the scene. And the second reason is for focus and attention. If done intentionally, this can really direct our viewers' attention to specific things or people in the shot. This will help our viewers focus on what's important and help to keep your viewers immersed in the story. Now that we know what it is and why it's important, let's talk about a few tools that you can use right now to really elevate your next film. There are a whole plethora of amazing composing techniques that you could use to elevate your films. Things like using shapes, patterns, the rule of odds, and color and tone, just to name a few. Doing this well will make the scene feel like it makes sense and naturally guide your viewer's eye to what's most important within the scene organically. But like I said, there's a whole lot more that goes into this, so let's just start with the basics. The first thing that any photographer or filmmaker will learn, definitely one of the first things that I learned, and that is the rule of thirds. Now, I'm sure most of you have heard about the rule of thirds, but in its most basic form, the rule of thirds is a grid with 4 intersecting points. And these points are where you would place your point of interest, like your main character or a detail, for example. And we do this because it is what's pleasing to the eye, and it also encourages balance and dynamic within your frame. However, you could be just as effective with central framing, or like what I'm doing right now in this talking head. Central framing is great for drawing the attention to what's important in the scene and is excellent for when using quick cuts, like say in an action scene, because the eye doesn't have to travel too much to stay focused on what's going on within the scene. Another thing to think about is positive and negative space. Now, this one is crucial in composition because how you use this will imply something specific within your scene. Negative space can create a sense of calmness and can also focus our attention to what's important in the frame, while positive space can create a sense of chaos, or it can be used to highlight an object to bring importance to that item because it's going to reveal something later in the film. So just be intentional and make sure it works really well for the story when using space to compose your shot. Okay, so let's talk about depth and how it can be used to create layers within your scene. A shallow depth is really great for when you want to draw attention to your subject, while deep focus is a great way to draw attention to multiple things in the frame that are important for the audience to take in. Another important aspect of composition is the use of lines. Now, there are many different kinds of lines that you could be thinking about in your film. There are straight lines, horizontal lines, vertical, curved lines, and all of them can change and shape the overall tone and emotion within your frame. But a common one that's talked about a lot online are leading lines. Now, these are really fun to use and one of my personal favorites because it's a really creative way to direct your viewers to the main subject or the point of interest. So I'm back here at the train tracks. You might have seen me here before in one of my older videos all about natural light. You could see that these trains and the train tracks themselves are leading to our subject, that subject being me. Now you could use this for a documentary film if you're trying to create leading lines to your subject and really draw your attention to that person, or if you're doing a character reveal or you're doing a narrative film and you really want to focus on what your character is doing, then this would work really great as well. Let's talk about angles. Now, angles are all about what we see as the viewer and what our characters are viewing or experiencing within the scene. For example, the camera angled up at the subject can make our character feel larger and superior, while the camera angled down at the subject can make our character feel small and inferior. Also notice too that I utilize the use of lines within this frame. Vertical lines can imply strength and power and really just make that character feel just a lot bigger than they maybe are. So just an added bonus there. If used effectively, this can really give the viewer a sense of being right within the story and feel the proper emotions with our characters within the scene. And one more important one that we're gonna cover today, and that is balance. Here are a couple of examples of what I mean. If you have a lot going on one side of the frame, but not a whole lot on the other side of the frame, this could feel a bit balanced. All you would need to do is just add something practical in there, something that would make sense for this story. Maybe something like a floor lamp or some photos on the wall, you know, things like that to really just balance out this frame. But just like most rules, all of these things can be just as effective when broken. You just have to put some intentionality behind it, really think it through and make sure it makes sense for the story. So I definitely want to encourage you to just kind of play around with some of these things and just see what works best for your film. Like I mentioned in the beginning of this video, there's a whole lot more to think about when composing a shot. Like choosing the right focal length or the appropriate aspect ratio, using techniques like the golden triangle or the use of shapes, the frame within a frame. There's so much to think about. So if you like this kind of content and you want to see more, or you have any questions on this specific video, then feel free to hit me up in the comments below, because I'm really just happy to help in any way that I can, and I love connecting with you guys. All in all, composition and framing aren't just technical elements for making a film, but powerful creative tools that we could use to tell compelling and impactful stories. So I just want to encourage you to grab your camera, grab a couple of friends and some family members, practice these techniques often, because I know for a fact if you implement these few things, they will truly elevate your next film. And if you do end up using some of these techniques in this video, send me a link, because I'd love to check that out. Maybe give some feedback if you'd like that. I'm actually thinking about starting a whole Discord just for that, a place that we can hang out and share our films and give each other feedback. This is definitely something that's been on my mind for a while now, so let me know in the comments down below if you're interested in that. Well, that's gonna do for me, you guys. Thank you so much for joining me in this video. If you like this video or you learned something, please click the like button down below. Consider subscribing if you haven't already, and I'll catch you in the next one. Cheers, friends.